So we will reconvene from our exempt session, and there will be possible future things to come out of that depending to this evening, if not at the next board meeting. So at this time, I would do roll call. Director Drake.
Liz Drake, District Director 3.
Hiroshiato, Director, District 5.
Jeffrey McAnalloy, Director, District 1.
Carol Gregory, Director, District 4.
Tammy Campbell, Superintendent.
Now if you all please rise for the presentation of the colors. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. This time I'd entertain a motion to accept the approval of the agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the meeting agenda of September 13th, 2016 as submitted.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This time I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the required approvals agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approve the required approvals agenda of September 13th, 2016 as submitted.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This time we'll have introduction of new administrative staff. Dr. Campbell.
I'd like to invite our Chief of Communications, Cassie Swenson, to the podium to share information about some new members joining the team.
Good evening, Board President McAnalloy, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Campbell. It is my pleasure to introduce new administrative leadership to the team at Federal Way Public Schools for the 2016-17 school year. Our administrators have chosen Federal Way Public Schools to offer their experiences, talents, and leadership expertise to ensure each of our scholars has a voice, a dream, and a bright future. I am pleased to introduce Rachel Smith Moselle, the assistant principal of Lake Grove Elementary. Rachel was the assistant principal at Roseway Heights Elementary in Portland Public Schools. Her previous school leadership experience includes leadership positions as a former dean of students at Todd Beamer High School, a 5 Dimensions of Teaching and Learning instructional facilitator, avid district director, and instructional coach. She received a Bachelor of Arts in History and Secondary Social Science from Sonoma State University and a Master's in Educational Leadership and Principal Certification from City University of Seattle. Please join me in congratulating Rachel Smith Moselle.
Thank you, and good evening, Board President McAnally, President or members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Campbell. I am honored to serve the Lake Grove and larger Federal Way Public Schools community as your assistant principal. On a personal note, as a birth, adoptive, and foster mother, I am so excited by our district's increased focus on the social emotional needs of and the impact of trauma on our scholars. A former 5D instructional coach, leadership teacher, avid district director, and more, I am inspired by the work to align our system, the clarity of focus, and the measures of success provided by the strategic plan will ensure our scholars are achieving at high levels in Federal Way Public Schools. I am all in, and I thank you for your welcome and warm reception. Pardon me.
I am pleased to introduce Pam Tuggle, the planning principal of Taft Academy. Ms. Tuggle has been with the district for 27 years, providing leadership at the school and district level. Most recently, she has served as the district's Title I LAC director in the Department of Teaching for Learning. The significant experience she brings to the planning principal position is the leadership support she brought to 2 middle schools that went through important transitions, including Sahalee Middle School and Lakota Middle School. She provided critical leadership in the planning and designing of the rebuilding of Lakota Middle School. The design focus of the school was to support a culture of project-based learning and STEM throughout the school. During her time at Lakota Middle School, as a principal over an 11-year period, an emphasis on students' use of technology devices integrated with curriculum was an effort she supported. A proven leader who is student-focused, especially as it relates to powerful learning experiences utilizing technology, she will continue to support and build upon the project-based learning and STEM experiences Taft Academy offers student scholars, including exhibition nights, STEM Expo, service learning projects, and more. She received a bachelor's and a master's degree in education, special education from Texas A&M University, and her principal's certification from the University of Washington, Tacoma. Please join me in congratulating Pam Tuggle.
Good evening, President McAnally and members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Tammy Campbell, and the Federal Way community. I am so excited to be back in the principal chair again because I feel like that's where I do my very best work. So bringing my leadership experience from both at the school level but also at the district level, I believe will just bring an absolute full cycle to my journey as an administrator, and to do it in something that I love so dearly as STEM education and technology-infused education. I am so excited to be the planning principal at Taft Academy, along with Joe Costi, the planning principal at Sahalee. And we have great plans to bring these 2 school communities together to build the capacity for what we can do with our students and our scholars at Sahalee. And it's going to be called Taft at Sahalee. So thank you for this unique opportunity. I'm very honored, and I will serve you well. With every part of my being, I will serve you well. Thank you.
Next will be our legislative liaison update. Director Drake.
So,
Oh, is it?
yeah, good news.
You're right, I skipped
So
it.
if I look confused, do you want me to go forward?
Go ahead
Yeah?
and finish it, and then we'll do good news.
Okay.
I apologize.
So it's a somewhat exciting time at the moment. Last week, there was a hearing of the Supreme Court with the landmark case of McCleary. The 9 judges were somewhat preoccupied with should they continue with some of the punishments. I don't want to use the word punishment. Some of the ways in which they are encouraging the legislators to actually fully fund education in Washington schools throughout Washington, which at the moment they are not doing. So the hearing lasted for over an hour. They spoke in very direct terms to the attorneys of the state, making it clear that they will be deliberating and coming forward in the next few days with a plan. We are unsure if they will ramp up the punishments to incentivize the legislators to start taking action. We're unsure what they're going to do. At this present moment, $36 million has been allotted from the $100,000 a week, a day, that they are presently being incurred upon the state. None of that as yet has been paid. There hasn't been a bank account opened. No monies have been transferred. It's pretty meaningless at the moment. So I think they're just trying to figure out how they are going to move things forward. The Senate Bill 6195 that was passed to form a task force to go throughout Washington state to find out what conditions salaries are in presently, what levies exist within each district, so that they can then, the task force can then start coming back and providing some courses of action for the 2017 legislative body. So we're in flux still. We're unsure what the Supreme Court will decide, and so every day I look to see if they've come back with how they're going to handle this. The number one ticket is teacher salaries. That's the number one ticket. We, at the moment, have to provide a percentage of our levies to cover teacher salaries. That cannot continue. And the state is in this weird situation where they have got to address how levies will not be impacted, school district levies will not be impacted to cover teacher salaries. So that's basically the issue. So look for the news. I wait with bated breath, and hopefully we'll hear something worthwhile.
Thank you, Director Drake. Sorry about that. So now let's move on to what we should have been doing first, and that's good news announcements.
So we would like to start by thanking our community partner, Integrity Life Church, for its generosity in helping collect school supplies. Integrity Life Church passed out a total of 400 backpacks and fed over 500 people at this year's free backpack giveaway event. This is the 5th year the church has undergone this effort to help our scholars get ready for school. Today, we'd like to recognize the following individuals for their support. Please come to the front as I read your names. Pastor Joseph Bowman, do come forward. Taylonia Gabriel. If there are other Integrity Life Church members in attendance, we welcome you to come forward also. Please come forward so that we can get a... Providing essential school supplies to our families in greatest need results in our scholars being prepared to learn when they arrive to school every day. Thank you, Integrity Life Church, for all you do to help prepare our scholars for success at school.
We would like to thank other community partners for their generosity in helping collect over 4,600 pounds of donated school supplies, including backpacks. That's 1,000 pounds more than last year, and the largest donation amount that's happened for the Fill the Canoes school supply effort in Federal Way. Providing these essential school supplies to our families in greatest need results in our scholars being prepared to learn when they arrive to school every day. Today, we'd like to recognize the following partners for their support. Please come to the front as I read your names. Bridget O'Connor, Red Canoe Credit Union. Tracy Oster, Communities and Schools of Federal Way. Jeff Bellinghausen, South King Fire and Rescue. Cheryl Hurst. John McIntosh, Grace Church. And Pastor Dan Larson, Family Life Community Church. If there are other school supply community partners in attendance, we welcome you to come forward now too. A big thank you to Federal Way school staffer David Wilson. Is David here? Come on up. We want to thank David for helping with this effort for the last 17 years. David donates his own time to the sorting and distribution of the project and also has donated many supplies over the years. Thanks to these partners and the numerous organizations and individuals who donated their time, money, and/or supplies to make this school year's school supply drive a big success. Congratulations.
Next, the Mirror Lake Elementary Back to School Bash, led by the neighborhood church St. Luke's, was a big success. St. Luke's provided backpacks, food, school supplies, haircuts, t-shirts, and lunch for every Mirror Lake student. An estimated 200 families attended the event. Today, we'd like to recognize the following individuals from St. Luke's for their support. Please come to the front as I read your names. Sylvia Courtney, Valerie Danforth, Lois and Bill Thompson, Mary Ann and Kai Hopewell, Gary and Terry Westerkamp. I also want to mention that this couldn't have been done without the work of about 15 Mirror Lake staff, including Principal Jolene Vining. If Jolene is here, please come forward. It is a great example of what can happen when schools and community groups work together to make good things happen for kids.
You're going to be a front rower. He's going to be behind you, probably. And maybe one more in the front. You can come over here, I think. Over. Short. We're trying to. Come on over here. Yep, probably. Yep. There we go. You two can switch places. Yeah. Yes. Can you capture us? Oh, yes, absolutely. All right. Big smile.
Good evening. I'm Lori Bender. I'm an assistant principal at Thomas Jefferson High School. Tonight, we'd like to recognize a graduate who received his diploma from Thomas Jefferson High School this summer. Gavin Bishop started at Thomas Jefferson High School as a 9th grader. With faith from his mother and support from many of his teachers, Gavin pushed on through his senior year and Gavin pushed on. In his senior year, he realized that he needed something more to help him reach his goal. With the support of family and Thomas Jefferson's school resource officer, Officer Tilford, Gavin applied to the Washington Youth Academy. With his drive to succeed, he was immediately successful. He kept his focus tight and graduated with all possible credits. Coming back to Thomas Jefferson to earn one last credit needed to graduate, he pushed himself to succeed. Gavin grew into an advocate for himself, and he made his education happen. Due to his positive experience at the Washington Youth Academy, Gavin is considering both the military and attending college in his future. Congratulations, Gavin.
Good evening. I too share with Principal Bender the excitement of being able to announce some graduates this evening. I'm the principal and have the absolute honor to serve the young people at Federal Way Open Doors, formerly Federal Way Acceleration Academy. Tonight, we'd like to honor 3 graduates, like I said, who worked with Open Doors to graduate. First is Miranda Pond. Miranda attended Sequoia, Todd Beamer, and also Federal Way Open Doors, so she's really our child here in Federal Way Public Schools. She came to us with 6 credits to go, and just to give the audience a little bit of an example, that sounds quite small, but it's actually 12 classes, which sometimes takes a person 1 class per month, which is typically 12 months. Upon arrival, Miranda turned her motivation on, and there was absolutely no stopping her. She did complete a class per month and some more while working and commuting a long distance. She set her goal to attend Eastern Washington University, and Miranda was true to her goal. She leaves September 15th for Eastern Washington University. She says the secret to her success has been motivating herself and following through, which has prepared her for her 4-year university experience. Miranda would like to specifically thank some of her teachers at Open Doors: Coach Sorsby, math, Coach Torres, history, and then Miss Laureen Decker, who became Miranda's advocate in helping her achieve her goals. Congratulations, Miranda. Also, it's my honor and pleasure to recommend to this group William Broadus, who did achieve his diploma through Job Corps. William was one of our first enrollments before I even arrived at Acceleration Academy, Open Doors. William needed to work full-time, and he stopped coming to school. When William did return, he met with our counselor, Miss Sherilyn Weimer, who referred him to Job Corps because William had mentioned he needed a residential program. Sherilyn arranged an appointment for William to meet with Job Corps, and he completed all the requirements, which is very rigorous. Like some of us who went to university, it would be similar. When William arrived at Open Doors just a week ago, September 8th, he came with his high school diploma, along with earning 2 certifications in culinary arts and forestry. And he reminded me, he graduated with honors. His next journey will be attending University of Washington, Seattle, with the support of our Open Doors partner, Seattle Education Access. We requested William be recognized tonight because he is a Federal Way Scholar. He did attend here, and he did take an alternative pathway to achieve his long-term goals. Congratulations, William. Wow. 100 kids, 500 kids, 3 kids. It doesn't matter. It's still super exciting. Next, I'd like to recognize Michael Gregg. Michael Gregg also was a scholar at Federal Way Acceleration Academy before it was Open Doors and before I arrived. He has been in Federal Way Public Schools since being a kindergartner at Woodmont. He went to Valhalla, Mirror Lake, Sequoia, Todd Beamer, and then our school. Michael is a very determined young man. School wasn't always easy for him. He worked hard to make sure he learned the skills and concepts necessary to succeed and earn his diploma. This summer, Michael did earn his diploma from Federal Way Open Doors. He will be starting his next leg of his academic journey in a few short weeks as a student at Highline College. Congratulations, Michael.
Every single scholar matters, and it's great to be able to recognize them this evening, so thank you. Next is public comment. Do we have any sheets that have been turned in? So there are blue sheets on the back table that allow you to do public comment. If you want to do comment, that's what you do. You fill that out and turn it in, and then we allow that. So let's move to superintendent comments. Dr. Campbell?
Well, you know, that's what it's all about, what we just saw. Getting every single one of our scholars across the finish line. And some of them do this in 4 years, and some it takes a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, we want them to cross. So still, it's a little bit of emotion. You know, as you know, the hardships and the pathways that some of our scholars take to getting there just means a lot. I want to start out by saying I had the opportunity to participate in and facilitate what I would say is a powerful kickoff, where we shared our goals and our strategic plan, and we had community on stage talking about it, parents, students, staff, and to make sure that we had staff from all parts of the organization, not just the classroom, but whether it's a mechanic or whomever. I want to thank the board of directors for being there alongside, helping to launch it. I've heard so many positives from people who felt like they can hear and see the focus of the district, and I think our partnership has really helped in that effort. And as I walked out, I went to schools, almost hit all my schools, not quite there yet. You can see the focus transferring from that kickoff into our classrooms, into our school environments. What stands out for me is how much our staff care about our kids. There's just an environment of care in our schools. I don't care which school it's in, where we're creating this culture and climate where school's a home game. Speaking of which, we had the opportunity at Todd Beamer and Sahali to have 50 faith-based and community-based leaders to stand out front of the school and cheer on our scholars. Some of the kiddos, I think, were a little frightened to have this tunnel of adults. They were trying to find ways to go around it, but again, if you look on our Facebook page, and I can't tell you how many parents who said that meant so much to start the year off like that. So those are the types of things that we want to really focus on as we focus on goal 2, making sure that all of our children can feel whole as they're engaged in their learning. I want to stress we are right now in the midst of communicating and sharing out to ensure attendance is a focus for our scholars, and that our scholars are here every day, learning every day. As I walk through classrooms, I could see teachers talking to their students about why attendance matters. I had literally dozens of scholars who say, "You're the lady on the picture who's saying that I need to be at school every day." It's like, yeah, that's me. That's exactly right. So great start to the school year. Great team, working hard, putting in a lot of hours. We've got an incredible team with the leadership team and cabinet, and I want to thank you for all of your efforts in that vein. And lastly, I'm excited about this coming month. We're going to have our first group of scholars who will have their names drawn to play chess with the superintendent and read a book. And again, we've got a lot of interest, to the point that I'm going to probably not just do one scholar. I may do 4 or 5 at a time, because that, again, I heard a lot of young people wanting to do that and engage in that activity of problem solving and critical thinking. So we're excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will do school board comments. Director Gregory, would you like to start us?
Thank you. As many of you might know, I have been out for a while. I have had knee surgery, one knee, and I'm getting ready for the second. And I appreciate the understanding that the school board has given me in not being participatory for a while. It's given me some time to reflect. And the other day I thought, why am I doing this? And then I thought, but you've been doing this for 51 years. And I thought, I have been in education 51 years. And I thought, I've seen 10,000 changes. I've seen the same program called 15 different names. I've seen, as many of you may have, and we always keep trying. And I have to tell you, and I haven't told my colleagues, I have to truly say that this is the first time in those 51 years that I am truly hopeful. And I went through everything from deciding to quit the board because I felt useless, everything was going well, what was I gonna do? To rethinking just what the differences are and what a tough year it's gonna be for us. We are creating change at a faster pace than I have ever seen. and it's going to be hard. And I have so much empathy for our teachers and our staff and parents who don't really know what we're doing, but know their kids, from their kids, something's happening, and they're not sure what that's all about. I commend the board and I commend Superintendent Campbell for what has been accomplished this year and what our opportunities are for next year. But I must say to the community, you must support us. This is not an easy task, and there's going to be a lot of discouragement and a lot of concern about the change process. But it's worth it, and our kids are going to benefit. And seeing tonight this graduation was a little more than I could take, because this is what, as Tammy said, it's all about. These kids have had it tough, and they've made it, and we're going to have a lot more next year. So thank you for the time I'm out. I know I'll be out again for a short time, but I really appreciate all the work everyone's done.
Thank you. Director Eto?
I'm just glad that we have a great start to the school year. I have no other formal comment.
Thank you. Director Drake?
I've been involved in a number of different community activities, and I just want to share three. I want to share City Vision. It meets first Tuesday of each month at First Avenue Library, and it's just an amazing group of community members doing some wonderful things for the whole community, but very much linked to a lot of things that we're doing in the school district. And I just wanted to hold up, perhaps can't see it. We love our city. It's a citywide service group. They're going to be holding a citywide serve day on Sunday, October the 2nd. And the very first item on this list of what they're going to be doing is painting schools. Fabulous. It then goes on to planting community gardens, cleaning up our streets. If you have time, Sunday, October the 2nd, I'm trying to look at, check-in time is 2 o'clock. Return time 5:30. Fabulous. And it speaks to what Carol just mentioned now. The second meeting that I was part of was when Tammy was rolling out the strategic plan at the Rotary Club. Lots of community members there, and the conversation after the meeting was so positive, talking about the difference that everyone there was such excitement. We already were running over time, and no one wanted to leave. And I'm sure we pay by the hour. And
Lane reminded me I was going over.
yeah, but it was just so energetic, and the feedback from our community about what we're doing in our district was great. And then I wanted to save the best to last, and that's the kickoff. 2,500 staff members in this amazing building, and it was energetic, it was dynamic, it was full of meat, it was full of substance, it was full of, in fact, Carol and I were sitting next to each other saying, just, this is what it's about. Tammy went through her 100-day plan, and then all the work that we put into creating with all the stakeholders, the strategic plan. And at the end of her presentation, Tammy said, and I'm going to quote, "Have I built the case for why a strategic plan?" And just applause, and just such powerful emotion that really gets us off to a good start. And I agree, it's not all going to be easy. But just to highlight just a couple, there was applause beyond applause for a comment that President McAnally made about institutional racism. The whole audience clapped. Also, when bus drivers and the hard work that they are involved in, applause. when Tammy was showing some of the data, and it was done in a very sensitive and a very positive way. And we can't fix what we don't see, and talked about the availability of data, the support from the staff, coaching model, family liaisons, the fact that our college-bound schools scholarship data, we're top of the districts in the area for the number of applications that we got in. That was applause off the chart. So thank you for making what we're doing here in Federal Way such a breath of fresh air.
Thank you. So I'll kind of just continue that because the kickoff was pretty phenomenal. And, you know, I do have to share, again, I'm going to share it here as I shared it in that meeting. As a white Caucasian male, institutional racism exists in Federal Way Public Schools, and we must get rid of the achievement gap, and we must all collectively work together. This board is actually doing the Courageous Conversations book right now for us to make sure we deepen our understanding as a board superintendent team, to make sure that all policies are being done and everything that we do has a focus on that. Until the achievement gap is gone, we know that it still exists and that there's work that needs to be done. And it's not easy work, right? It's not easy conversations. This board has met in the last 14 months in retreat almost 100 hours with Dr. Campbell to build relationships, to build understanding, to overhaul our policies. By the end of October, those policies will completely be overhauled. We're going to do some more work tonight with some approvals around our board superintendent relationships. So that's work that we're continuing to do to make sure that we are honed in and aligned to take care of every single one of our scholars. As we watch what happened tonight, it's pretty emotional, right? It's not, you can see the emotion from all of us, that this work that we do is all centered around every single scholar to helping each one of them be successful. Next week, four of us will actually attend the Ledge Assembly to set within WASDA, Washington State School Directors Association. We'll go to Spokane. We will spend 2.5 days together to set what our platforms will be. We've done a work as the Ledge Committee that I'm a member of, and we will move forward with that to come out in November with what our priorities are. I can tell you that compensation and construction will most undoubtedly be at the top of that list, but it depends on what the Assembly does with that. And I, too, attended the Rotary meeting to see the rollout of the strategic plan. It's amazing, the strategic plan. One of the first meetings I had when I had been elected as a school board member was 2 parents coming to me to say, why don't we have a strategic plan? And I've beat that drum to the point where it's come to fruition. In the next 5 years, hard work, but yet it's all focused, whole child, right? Making sure that every single scholar can be successful in everything that we do. And you can just feel it in the buildings. It's amazing where we're moving. It's all systematic in the way we're doing it, collectively together, every single one of the staff, the board, the superintendent, all of us together to take care of our scholars. So thank you.
And I would just add a couple things as we think about the work ahead, and I think Carol hits an important point. You know, we saw these students come tonight who are graduates. We have probably 200 to 300 of them who did not cross the finish line. So we have to be reminded of what we've got to focus on. And when we look at our achievement data in terms of growth, because I don't believe you focus on a percentage, you just look to see, are we shifting our 1s to 2s, or 2s to 3s, or 3s to 4s? And that will be the work. And I believe that we have a dedicated staff who want to do that, but that will be hard work in terms of professional learning and putting the systems in place so that it happens year in and year out. And I believe we're going to do it, and I'm excited about the opportunities ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is Federal Way High School construction update. Dr. Campbell?
Well, as you know, Federal Way High School did not open when we wanted it to open. That happens sometimes with construction projects. I will say this, it will open at the next date that we have set upon us in October. But in the meantime, what I'd like for our team to do now is to give you an update on where we are in ensuring that it will be open. I will tell the board we will have sort of a grand opening that we would want all board members to be present at. You might be recovering at that point, Carol, but we'll get more information out to you as we know more about that date. Okay, so with this, I'd like to have Deputy Superintendent Dr. Pfeiffer, Sally McLean, Chief Operations and Facilities, as well as our Learning Improvement Officer, Dr. Ginger Collison, share a little bit about what's going on at Federal Way High School.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Board President McAnally, members of the board, Dr. Campbell, it's our pleasure to present to you this evening updates on Federal Way High School and provide you with a brief overview of the supports being offered to staff and our scholars as we prepare for this exciting transition. Joining me this evening, as mentioned by Dr. Campbell, is Sally McLean, Chief Finance and Operations Officer, and Dr. Ginger Callison, Learning Improvement Officer for Federal Way High School. The overall purpose and goals of the presentation this evening are to provide rationale and information for Federal Way High School delay in its opening, provide the details and information related to construction updates, specifically the safety systems, interior and exterior conditions, and the new system that has been installed or are being installed. And finally, to provide details and information related to student and staff supports for this transition, specifically the supports for moving staff, students, and family orientation to new buildings with trainings. So much changes in 2 weeks, as I am reminded of these pictures here as we were preparing for this presentation. When we were preparing for this presentation, we thought it would be nice to provide a few images of how the building and the surrounding area looks, and the grounds were progressing as we moved closer to the opening. However, as I drove by Federal Way High School this weekend on my way to Federal Way Farmers Market, I was amazed at the progress that had been made in such a small window. So the images you see here have already changed so drastically. But while much progress has been made in those 2 weeks in a short amount of time, there was still a need for delay. So what was the rationale for the delay? The first is safety systems. All of them must be operational before the building is occupied. To provide more time for complete interior and exterior completion, and to provide the time needed to learn the new building systems, such as classroom technology, to security controls, to the HVAC system, ensuring that all would be utilizing these systems, understand how to use them at their fullest potential. And most importantly, we want to have the smoothest transition possible, and extending this time will allow just that.
When we talk about safety systems in a building, there are some major components that are required to be operational or installed in order to get a certificate of occupancy. Some of those systems include elevators. This is a large campus and it has 3 elevators. As of today, we now have 2 elevators that have been completely installed, adjusted, and inspected by the Department of Labor and Industries. So that is big progress from where we were 2 weeks ago. All of the stairways have to have both guardrails, so something covering the outside, and handrails. So these are just handrails, guardrails fill in the space. We have a significant number of stairways in the Federal Way High School. You see one picture here of an exterior stairway that has yet to have guardrails and handrails installed. The very last set of guardrails and handrails were delivered today. So they will be fully installed by the end of next week, and the rest of them have been or are close to being completed. I walked through again on Thursday, but they have been making strong progress in that area. We also have 4 interior stairways and 2 very, what I would call magnificent overlook areas, but you still need to put those guardrails and handrails in place. And of course, the fire alarms must be fully installed, tested, and operational, and that system is actually working well. A picture of some of our interiors and exteriors. This is the new Federal Way High School library. As you can see, this room really was ready before the start of school, ready for students, ready for books, ready for computers, ready for furniture. So we wanted to show you that there are big, nice places in this building that are ready for our students and ready for our staff. A couple of facts when you think about Federal Way High School, as I've worked very closely with SPE West, our general contractor, there is over 1 mile of rubber basing to install in this facility. So when you think about that, the rubber base between the floor and the carpet, or the wall and the carpet, and it just takes a while to get 1 mile of rubber basing down. And the ceiling tiles, even though a lot of this ceiling is still exposed, there are also ceiling tile clouds, and there's over 1 acre of ceiling tile that has been installed in Federal Way High School. and those are all projects that have been continuing. I know this is not the most exciting shot of Federal Way High School, but this is the room that has our heating and ventilating systems in it, that has all of our various technology pieces. And sometimes this is one of the things that slows you up in a new school, but these systems have been up and running. Our boilers are up and running. They've been testing. We've been commissioning, and we don't, other than adjusting individual classrooms when people move in and start to get used to their climate, we don't anticipate any problems in this area. We move forward with some new technology in Federal Way High School. That was one of the training opportunities that Dr. Pfeiffer referenced, and I know Dr. Callison will address. So moving away from the overhead projectors and whiteboards to actual smart technology in those classrooms. So all of that equipment is on site and waiting to be installed, as are our various security cameras that are on site and waiting to be installed, which is another system that requires some training and overview. We have some original first line training scheduled for tomorrow morning, actually, with our custodians and our key staff, so they start to learn how to work these commissioning systems and can support them. Another interesting fact about Federal Way High School is it is designed with a full-size generator. Most of our schools and buildings do not have full-size generators, and so it will have some capacity to be a significant shelter-in-place location for our community if such an event was ever to occur. Obviously, last June, we were pushing for an on-time opening, so worked with the staff at Federal Way High School to pack up their portables. Remember, most of those staff are in portable classrooms for this last year. So this is a picture of all the work that staff had done. They have been very collegial and cooperative about unpacking minimal amounts in order for them to be able to provide instruction in these first 6 weeks. And obviously, thanks to Shirley Wyke and her work, the boxes were moved out of the portable classrooms, so teachers are not working, students are not trying to learn with all of these boxes surrounding them. So we did get all those boxes out of those classrooms, and we'll be ready to move them back into their new classrooms as furniture is installed. So we have all the furniture is on site in warehouses. The furniture crews are ready as soon as we give them a green light, and we will actually start moving furniture into classrooms by the end of next week. So we can get the furniture installed, then start moving in boxes, and then as soon as we get that occupancy permit, which I believe will be no later than the end of September, then we can start letting teachers in to unpack their classrooms around their work schedules. So the last push, obviously, to get everything done will be over beginning Thursday evening, October 13th, with Friday the 14th being a non-student day, and working through that weekend to be ready to welcome our student scholars into the portion of the Federal Way High School that we are very excited to have open.
So as complicated as the facilities portion of this has been, one of the hardest things is successfully moving people from one building to another without jarring them too much. One of my favorite things that I've heard this year was from Dr. Oberst, the principal, who said we need to focus on instruction, not construction. And they have tried very hard to stay true to that as they begin the year amidst all of this excitement. Nevertheless, we're trying to forecast out what might be tricky. If you think of a time when you've moved from one place to another and where did I put this? Where are the lights for this? They're going to go through all of these things, and it will be the entire building worth of people. So we're trying to anticipate where the questions might be and do some things in advance so that the first day in the new building is productive. So this was mentioned, but one of the things that we're looking at is training teachers on the new building technology, so smart boards. Primarily. For one thing, they're going to need to be able to write on something and put some information up. But also, these are really great tools for teaching, and if they're used correctly, can really enhance learning opportunities in the classroom. So we want to take advantage of those. They want to bring the staff over before the kids and do some tours and do some troubleshooting. So really anticipate kids and families' questions. Where do you find this? Where's the attendance office? Where's my mailbox? You know, just little things that don't seem like a big deal, but if you have a day full of those or a couple of weeks full of those, that can really throw you off your game. So just trying to anticipate that ahead of time. Also, safety, you know, things you don't think about. We need to know how to evacuate if we have a fire. We need to know what to do if we have an earthquake, really making sure that we keep everybody safe, practicing that and being ready for the kids when they come in the building. So really the goal of the staff part going over first is what are the kids going to ask us? We need to be ready to answer their questions when they ask. Additionally, there's some nice features on the new building that they're just going to have to learn how to use. So how to enter and exit the building, the elevators, etc. Small things, but when taken all together can make a big, you know, impact if you don't know how to do them. Also thinking about the kids and about families. If you imagine a day when you bring a new student to school and all of the things that you have to teach to that person, we're going to have a building full of new kids all on the same day. So it's going to be fun, you know, but we want to be ready for that. So we can't nail down specific dates just yet because the building needs to be safe for kids to enter, but we're anticipating during the first and second weeks of October, starting some transition assemblies, and not one great big one, in small groups. So maybe you go with your history class during 5th period, all history classes. So they're in little groups, they can get questions answered, and we can take them over to the new building and let them look around and ask questions in small groups. They started planning this on the first day of school. It's a joint effort between the ASB and the school administration, and they're just trying to forecast out what do we need to be able to go over smoothly. Again, going over for tours of the new building. I mean, imagine you go to a new school, you don't know where the bathroom is, you don't know where the attendance office is. Maybe we don't have the signage right. We want to make sure that we get all that down, make signs if we need them, make sure kids can find their classes. They're testing out the passing times to make sure that those are adequate, so we don't want a bunch of kids tardy on the first day of school and panicking, so we're going to do some practice runs with that. And then they'll add to the questions that the staff has generated, just so we can feed this information forward to kids and families ahead of time. Another important thing is we're leaving an old building and going to a beautiful new building, but there are some really important things that are connected to that old building. There's history that we want to make sure that comes along with us. So they're working with the ASB, they're talking with alumni, just what's really significant and important about this school that we want to preserve. So they're trying to determine what that is, and that will be part of the student assemblies that are in the first box there. They're really going to put a lot of effort into homecoming this year. This is a special one. You know, it's leaving some things behind and creating some things that are new. So they do want to bring in some new transitions. It's a new beginning, or some new traditions. But also making sure that they preserve the past. And I mentioned earlier practice runs, just passing times, maps. We want to make sure the maps are good, that they are understandable to the kids and families. And all of this, just as soon as we get a green light, we're going to get started on doing that. For families, we have written communication going home. They're trying to figure out how to open up a question and answer type of blog where people can post, you know, their questions or put up some frequently asked questions. And we'll be doing some automated calls home too.
Do you have any questions?
Director Depp?
Just one question on the smart board. Exactly what are you able to do with that?
The Smart Board is an interactive instructional tool that allows the teacher to record a lesson for students to manipulate the content on top of the Smart Board itself. So it would be like taking a whiteboard and being able to touch and move things, being able to write on it and have it record and then save that recording and deploy it to students. It also allows you to interact real time with resources on the web. So if a teacher is trying to build context around a specific thing where students lack background knowledge, you can instantly call that out and shine it as and make it part of your lesson. And there's a whole gallery of resources that exist within Smart Tools. So it's quite a nice piece of technology.
It helps to improve student engagement significantly when done well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Comment. I have a granddaughter at Federal Way High School, And while I know there was great concern about not meeting that timeline, I think there were some benefits to this. The kids know each other, they know who their teacher is. All of you who are doing the climate work at Federal Way, it's great. They're very comfortable, they don't see change as frightening, and I think they're just gonna have a good time with this. It's just a matter of it ending up happening.
I just have to give Dr. Oberst, the principal, credit. If you saw the video that they did to greet all those students, he had all their staff lined up. When Ginger talks about this idea about instruction before construction, he has really made an incredible difference at that school. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you all.
Nice job, team.
So now, Dr. Campbell, policy and procedure updates.
This is probably a little bit more unusual in terms of what we would be doing, but I wanted to just present what I would call a for your information only presentation, just to give you an update on some of the requirements that have changed around restraining our scholars. And I wanted to share that information with you, but also with our larger public. And so to do so, I'm having Dr. Pfeiffer, Deputy Superintendent, Martin Boonstra, the Interim Chief Academic Officer, and Diana Thomas, our Interim Executive Director of Student Support Services. And lastly, Dr. Melanie Stry, Executive Director of Office of Equity for Family and Student Success. This is just information, just for you to have some background around some of the new legal requirements that have come to bear, and now we're integrating them in our administrative policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Board President McAnally, members of the board, Dr. Campbell, it's our pleasure to present to you this evening updates and changes related to Policy Procedure 2164, 2164P, focused on the use of restraint and isolation, and Policy and Procedure 3240 and 3241 and 3241P, focused on changes to student discipline and re-engagement. Dr. Campbell has already shared with you that Mr. Martin Boonstra, Interim Chief Academic Officer, Diana Thomas, Interim Executive Director of Student Support Services, and Dr. Melanie Stry will be joining me this evening for this presentation. The goals of the presentation are to understand the changes in state law, specifically House Bill 1240, which prohibits the planned use of aversive intervention, which prompted our policy change. Also, to identify and share the changes in policy related to restraint and isolation, which includes all students, the revisitation of definitions and key terms found in this policy, the use of aversive intervention in general, and the effects this change has had on IEPs and emergency response protocols. Furthermore, to understand the changes in state law, specifically House Bill 1541, which prohibits the use of long-term suspension beyond 90 days. More specifically, to identify and share the changes in policy related to discipline re-engagement, related to the duration and mandatory end date, the qualifying behaviors for discipline, and the requirements for re-engagement and educational services. Having updated policies and procedures helps to support our work focused on strategic plan and the 5 goals therein, and the purposes of tonight's presentation, which highlight the assurances around the change in practice, supporting our district-wide commitment to Goal 2, if it would just come up. So you get the picture. There it is, Goal 2, okay? The whole child, thriving, confident, responsible individuals.
Good evening, Board President McAnally, members of the board, and Superintendent Campbell. So next we will review updates and policies related to restraint and isolation. Policy 2164 and 2164P, the procedure, is specifically around the use of restraint and isolation. And policy 2161 changes are around our policy for special education and related services. The changes in this policy were triggered by the changes in 2164 and affect a small portion of this policy. I will now have Interim Executive Director of Student Support Services, Diana Thomas, step in to share the changes in more detail.
So the policy of the State of Washington changed. Substitute House Bill 1240 was passed in 2015 and in effect in 2015-16 with some language updates in January of 2016. And some of the key pieces are that it prohibits the planned use of aversive interventions, promotes positive interventions when a student with disabilities is determined to need specially designed instruction to address behavior, and it prohibits schools from physically restraining or isolating any student except when the student's behavior poses imminent likelihood of serious harm to the student or another person. The changes to the law and its language prompted updates to our relevant policies and procedures. Specifically, 2164 and 2164P, the procedures, specifically address restraint and isolation. The updates ensure that the language is inclusive of all students, not only those with IEPs or Section 504 plans. It also removes references to aversive intervention. It matches the definitions of key terminology to the legal definitions provided. And it ensures our policies and accompanying procedures are aligned to the relevant RCW and WAC. The procedures for 2161P are specific to special education related services and have reference to some of those key terminologies from the update in 2164. So we needed to align the language and definitions with the state law. Additionally, that included removing any reference to aversive intervention, and it added language to define the appropriate use of emergency response protocols in an individualized education plan in alignment with the Washington Administrative Code.
So in summary, there are a few key points we would like to highlight in terms of what is the same and what is different in the policies. We will continue to place emphasis on positive behavior supports and student safety at the school level through our strategic plan, and specifically Goal 2, the whole child. Positive behavior sports and student safety at the school, we will continue to focus that at the school level through our strategic plan. And we've also had professional development in August aligned to Goal 2 that was focused very much on supporting schools with effective implementation of PBIS strategies at the school level, which will in turn benefit all students and help to emphasize positive behavior supports for individual students as well. Some of the key differences in the information just presented from the previous policies include a specific definition of where and when restraint and isolation can be used, and that it applies to all students, not just students with disabilities or students that may have a 504 plan. Additionally, the policy updates require the district to document every occurrence of restraint and isolation. With regard to aversive interventions, it can no longer be planned in the intervention for any students. Instead, the new policy emphasizes the use of emergency response protocols in situations where there is an imminent likelihood of harm.
Good evening, Board President McAnally, Board of Directors, Superintendent Dr. Campbell, and Ms. Anderson. This evening I'm going to review 3240, 3241, and 3241P. Maybe. Oh. The policy 1541, as Dr. Pfeiffer expressed, the House bill, we actually break that House bill down and we put it in language into our policy and procedures. So the House bill prohibits the use of long-term suspension and expulsions beyond 90 days and must end no later than the last day of the current school year. It promotes the use of alternative corrective measures to scholar removal, and it requires that all scholars receive educational services when expelled or suspended. The key updates were our committee worked on removing the language around zero tolerance and replacing the language referencing progressive discipline and corrective measures. We also made sure that to ensure all timeframes match the law specific to long-term suspensions and expulsions. We looked at making sure that our definitions of key terminology are the legal definitions. And we included specific language to address the procedures related to accessing educational services during a long-term suspension and expulsion. And lastly, we wanted to ensure that policies and the procedures were in line with all parts of the state law. I will get the clicker figured out by the end. So 3 major changes are the definition of emergency removal. We spent a lot of time on that particular definition. The duration of long-term suspensions and expulsions, and the re-engagement and educational services. A scholar may be removed immediately from a class, a subject, or an activity, assuming that the following conditions are in place. There is immediate and continuing danger to the scholar or other scholars or school staff with a threat of substantially disrupting the class, the subject, the activity, or the educational process. The removal from class or subject or activity shall continue, only until the danger or threat ceases, or the principal or the designated school authority acts to impose corrective action. Alternative corrective actions are taken with the exception of the following 4 conditions: possession of a real firearm, violation of criminal statutes listed in the RCW, 2 or more violations within a 3-year period, like gang intimidation, possessing dangerous weapons on school facilities, gang activity, willfully disobeying school administrative personnel, or refusing to leave public property, defacing or injuring school property. And the last one, behaviors that adversely impact the health or safety of other scholars or educational staff. A critical key component to the House bill was the process of re-engagement and educational services. And this is particularly important to us as it aligns directly with our strategic plan. We are committed to establishing a safety and academic plans when the scholar has been long-term suspended or expelled. We will have a written plan that outlines and is developed, that outlines the actions that the school will take for educational services, and is developed between the scholar, the parent or guardian, and the school staff. We will do this in a partnership. The steps will outline the academic supports as well as any social, emotional, or health-related services that the scholar may need. Our goal is to establish academic supports such as, but not limited to, tutoring, online services, and partnerships that we're developing with Highline Community College.
Illustrated here is a brief summary of what has remained the same and changed relative to 3140, 3141, and 3141P. Starting on the left, what has remained the same are suspensions and expulsions are still disciplinary options under qualifying behaviors. Progressive discipline is considered when applying corrective measures, and due process applies to all suspensions and expulsions. Moving to the right side, under highlights for what has changed, emergency removals require behaviors that are deemed dangerous and or substantially disruptive. Suspensions and expulsions must end within a 90-day term and must end on or before the last day of school. Scholars must receive educational services during suspensions and expulsions, and a plan for re-engagement is required, and input from scholars and families is also required. We have a multi-pronged approach for how we're communicating these changes out to our principals, parents, and scholars. As you are aware, we have newly updated and distributed Rights and Responsibility Handbook for our scholars, families, and staff, which we have and will continue to provide training for. The handbook is in alignment with the new policy and procedure, and it directly supports our efforts in our strategic plan and in alignment with our 5 goals. We have developed an administrative training toolkit, which provides forms, PowerPoints, videos on the changes that have been voiced. And additionally, we have offered drop-in support sessions to our schools and our ES teams relative to these changes. And lastly, the Office of Equity for Family and Scholar Success, in addition to our learning improvement officers working directly with the schools, will continue to support our staff, our families, and our scholars in this area. Questions?
Questions, board members?
Well, I'm going to presume that there's nothing detrimental in having these things come in, right? It seems like a good deal. Is that correct?
I think this is in line with what you see around trying to work very hard to keep our kids in schools and to be thinking about this in proactive ways and not disrupting their learning. I think that and it also helps us because we get some community who will say, why can't the kids just be out of school forever? And I wanted people to understand the legal parameters under which we operate when we have to provide a free and appropriate education to all students. So yes, I think these are positive things that we were probably already going to do, and they align with Goal 2 in the strategic plan, as Dr. Pfeiffer said.
Director Drake?
I'm sure that bringing in quite a large number of our schools doing PBIS and the social justice have you had feedback that this has been very helpful preparation?
I'll let Dr. Pfeiffer say a few things. I will just say we are still onboarding all of our schools on PBIS.
Right.
We're not quite at 100%. But what we've told them is that now is an expectation that every school has PBIS in place, because when you have those things in place, you're teaching the behaviors ahead of time so that you're not trying to react on the back end. So now every school has to do it, and we're looking at assessing their level of implementation. Is that right, Dr. Stry? Is that where we're at with that, Dr. Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, we've already assessed last spring the level of implementation of all of our schools, with the exception of a handful. And Dr. Stry, and in partnership with Erin Chinson, new last name for her, she was recently married, has developed an implementation plan which will provide strategic professional development based on the readiness of benefit, based on the data.
And along with the PBIS, especially in our middle schools, we're integrating our restorative practices.
Mm-hmm. But it's no longer an option to do PBIS anymore.
Yay. Okay, thank you very much.
Nice job, everybody.
Our next item on the agenda is a PSI collective bargaining agreement. It has been ratified, so this time I would entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve the collective bargaining agreement between the public school employees and Federal Way Public Schools 210, effective September 1st, 2016 through August 31st, 2019, as presented.
A motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now, our last item on the agenda is, if you remember back in late June, we went through and dug into our board superintendent relationship policies. So those were put in your packet and discussed at length. At this time, I would entertain a motion to accept the changes as presented.
I move that the Board of Education approve the revised board superintendent relationship policies, I-5, as submitted.
A motion, do you hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just one note, board members, there is now, with the work we're doing with our consultant, there is 5B through 8 that we will look at next week, and we will get those to you in your packet on Friday, so we can review those. And at this point, we are adjourned. Thank you all.